Well, good afternoon again to everyone. And once again, it's been an amazing day. We've had praise and worship and prayer and a number of incredible and impeccable speakers lined up for you all today. And I'm here to put the exclamation point on our day for our speaker lineup. We actually have a panel interview coming up shortly. But in terms of our speakers, the one-on-one opportunities, we're here to put an exclamation point on it with an amazing gentleman, Craig Williams, who I met several years back through two routes in Atlanta, Georgia. One via my church. I found out through my church that I was worshiping in Atlanta, Georgia, that Craig was actually the very first person to sow a seed, to plant financially into the ministry so that it could actually blossom and flourish. And so was grateful to find out about his connection to the ministry we're a part of, my family was a part of in Atlanta, Georgia. But then also there's an organization in Atlanta entitled the 100 Black Men of Atlanta. And basically that organization is comprised of some of the top leaders in the marketplace in Atlanta, Georgia, who have a passion for pouring into students of color, Black and brown students particularly, who come from distress and troubled backgrounds, but we've supported them with education, mentorship, and a number of other things. And so I had the privilege of connecting with Craig through that organization, through that work, while he was in Atlanta and while I was in Atlanta. And man, we hit it off from the beginning, and I immediately took him on as a big brother and mentor, just because of the wisdom. Within an hour, he poured so much wisdom and knowledge into me, and I was like, wow, this guy's incredible. And at that time that I met Craig, he actually was serving in a role with Coca-Cola as head of the global McDonald's brand for Coca-Cola at that time. Since then, he has been recruited to actually become president of the entire Jordan brand worldwide for Nike. And so I have the privilege and honor of bringing on this incredible husband, this incredible father, this incredible leader, and also obviously an incredible businessman. So Craig, are you out there?
Yeah. Can you hear me, man?
Yes, sir. I hear you well. Thank you so much for taking 20 minutes or so to join us today. We really appreciate your time.
No, it's my pleasure. Actually, you were saying all that stuff. I was looking over my shoulder. I was like, who's he talking about? That guy sounds incredible. I'm like, I want to meet that dude.
Oh, man, you are that guy, man. What an honor to have you. Your schedule is slammed, and so I don't take it for granted. So I'm definitely going to make sure, that I stick within our time frame and that I honor our time together. So, but man, again, thank you so much for the influence you've been on me and so many others across the country and really globally with the roles that you've been able to sit in, man. It's such a privilege to have you. And so, in fact, I'd like to talk about that because the thing that I remember from you was the idea of, when I met you exhibited so much humility, and yet your resume is literally one of the top resumes in the world. I mean, it is remarkable, and yet you've been able to model humility. So, Craig, what about your faith and your journey, that combination has allowed you to continue to rise up at the level that you've risen and yet maintain such a balance of humility and grace in your walk?
Yeah, I mean, so the first, I guess, good thing is that I married a great wife, and she will keep me humble for the rest of my days. That is an awesome recipe for success for those of you that want to try it. And I think, Anthony, you can attest to that, right?
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I think the second thing is just a reminder. It was actually a Bible study that we were having at one point at a previous church, and it was, the body of Christ is a really important concept, but every facet of the body has a role. And no one role is more important than the other role. The foot is not more important than the arm or the nose, but they all have a job to do. And I think collectively, they perform a magnificent role as the body of Christ. And when we think about, our walks in life, we're all not destined, to do the same things, but we are destined to have an outsized impact on just about everybody we come in contact with. And it's our job to maximize that impact as much as possible. And so I've just been really, really happy to kind of run my race and then try to, positively influence the people that I interact with. And that's all I ever wanted to do. And regardless of, what the job title, says, or, where the trip, necessarily takes me tomorrow. My purpose, or my drive, my objective is to do the same.
Wow, wow, and I'm because of our time, I'm gonna be jumping around a little bit with you because I just want to try to extract as much wisdom out of you as possible. And so
Sure.
first of all, thank you for that response. And again, man, you model that. That's what I love about you, and just the encounters I've had with you is that what you're telling us is actually how you're living. And by the way, just to give you a heads up, Craig, we have about 5,000 people in our database. We're going to share this with our
Okay.
database. We also had just over 1,000 people or so, I think, registered for this experience. And
Okay.
so, obviously they will be sharing, and then it's going to live in perpetuity. So I'll make sure you get, a link for this video, and it'll live in perpetuity
Okay.
on our website. So point is, lots of ears tuned in with us to hear this
Sure.
message from you. So, what are your thoughts, man, making a slight pivot on
Sure.
that leadership that you've exhibited, et cetera, how you have applied that, because you've been in organizations where the frontline workforce, if you, for lack of a better term, has been essential to the work that those companies have done. Talk a little bit about your perspective on the importance of companies and leadership specifically empowering, investing in their frontline workforce. What insight or wisdom do you have for us on that?
Yeah, it's similar to, sports. If you think about it, there are some really terrific organizations out there that do a wonderful job. But hopefully they're really focused on empowering the people that are on the field or on the court, win games, because that's what, everybody is supposed to do. And so regardless of the company and regardless of the industry, at the end of the day, somebody is closest to the consumer or closest to the moment of truth. And everything that we do should be about making sure that that interaction is as positive, as enthusiastic as possible, so that we get a repeat action sometime in the future. And so my job, and it's literally, I was just having this conversation this morning with a person on our team over breakfast. My job as a global president is to make sure that person who actually runs our men's business in the U.S. Um, I'm supposed to make him successful. And so, in a lot of ways, when I think about what I'm supposed to do every day, I work for him. I work for the people that are literally ringing cash registers and redistributing racks inside a Nike store, because unless they're successful, it really doesn't matter how I feel like I performed in my job. If they're successful, then I feel great. And so I've always had, a bit of a mindset of service. People call it servant, leadership,
Servant
but it's
leadership.
really just a common sense order of things. Unless that works well, it doesn't matter how great I think I am. And so at the end of the day, when they tell me they need something, that's my job. When they tell me that they would like to satisfy the consumer in a differentiated way, that's my job, to be able to deliver on the spot to make them heroes. And I think if we're able to do that, this whole ecosystem works really, really well.
Well, what's interesting though about that is, and you, man, it's amazing because you said, man, that seems like a natural formula for success. But in fact, in many cases, Craig, that's actually counterintuitive, because I've come across, and I say this respectfully, a lot of leaders who put themselves first. So it's actually not natural for the average leader to say, you know what, if I want to be successful, then my job is to make the people around me successful. Because if I make
Mm,
them successful, the byproduct is that they're going to make me successful. That's
yeah,
counterintuitive, right? It's not. I mean, you said, "Hey, I lead with a servant leadership mindset," a biblical example, and of course that makes sense. But there are many people who that's not their mindset, and so how do you encourage leaders who frankly that's not as natural? Meaning,
hmm
leaders who aren't as naturally inclined to say, "My job is to get up every day and make their lives better, to make their jobs better, to help them perform better." Could you elaborate or dig a little bit more on that concept, if you don't mind?
yeah, yeah. So, in most instances, people that have, senior director, vice president, and all this other stuff in their titles, they don't collect cash in most businesses.
Yeah.
They sound really impressive, but they're literally not a part of, the day-to-day transaction where their consumers interact with their brands or businesses on a daily basis. And so it's in their best interest to ensure that the representatives of the brand and business are the most equipped, capable, and enthusiastic ambassadors that we can ever have. It's just, it's like, it should be common sense. For those folks that, it's not common sense, they usually find themselves being the stewards of businesses that are increasingly smaller or increasingly less relevant in tomorrow's environment or next year or the year after that. And so those problems, those situations usually take care of themselves. But I love being a part of businesses and teams that have the formula right, that actually want to equip frontline workers to be successful, using this example, because when they're successful, we're all successful. And I'll take when they do a victory lap, then my victory lap, is ready to be run. But until they do a victory lap, my deal is, what can I do to, make sure that you're going to be as successful or as big of a winner as you can envision, your future to look like. And that literally is the way that I think about it. So I can't, my influence on other leaders, usually their P&Ls are smaller than mine.
Wow. Wow. Man,
It's just, it works out that way.
man, that's powerful. It's funny because just before you, we had Cheryl Batchelder, former CEO of Popeyes, and she now serves on the board of Chick-fil-A, and she was talking about how the innovations that they're having in their company and some of the things they're doing, Craig. And of course, she talked about how the greatest surprise, or not necessarily surprise, but just what she saw as an epiphany with Chick-fil-A was how they take away the distractions so well from their frontline workforce that by the time the customer gets to the point of transaction, that employee is so jubilant, because the distractions have been removed, that they're able to perform at the highest level. So it's not just about saying my pleasure, but in a context like that, but it's actually because that employee has had barriers removed. And I'm hearing you say that your leadership style,
100%.
very similar
I agree
there.
with that 100%.
Yeah. So, man, what have you seen about some of the innovations? Now, when you think about innovations in this global economy, what are some of the barriers you've seen that are maybe preventing some companies from moving forward when you think about what's happening in the marketplace in this global economy and everything?
Yeah, I think the worst barrier is actually success. And so the worst thing that we can, take on or believe is that, we're successful and therefore we're always going to be successful. Or, we're right where we want to be and therefore we don't have anything else to go chase. And, what I found in, our organization is it's good for us to, always be curious. It's good for us to want to understand the reasons why consumers believe what they believe or why their value system is wired a certain way. And therefore, we can always be in the best position to be relevant in the future. And when we're curious, or the former CEO of Coke used to say, constructively discontent, have a little bit of a chip on your shoulder, have, something else that you're really still driving at year after year. That's when we're at our best. And frankly, that's hard. It's a mindset. Curiosity, sometimes occurs naturally in people, but to have, a drive and a hunger and a well-balanced discontent to want to continue to do more, that's a hard thing to cultivate within an organization, particularly when they're fat, they're successful, and they're satisfied. And so the goal for all of us is to make sure that we just got, that extra, drive, that little bit of a chip. The way I talk to my team is, let's make sure that we consistently redefine our why. Why do we come to work today? Why do we want to work together as a team? Why do we want to accomplish, magnificent things in the marketplace? Why do we want consumers and communities to thrive? So if we consistently redefine our why, then it'll give us something else to really drive toward. And I find that challenge to be very invigorating. And frankly, that's one of the hardest aspects of leadership.
Wow, I've got two more questions. I've got limited time with you, so I've got two more questions for you. anything that my next question is, of course, nothing proprietary, anything like that. But what are some innovative things you're doing at the Jordan brand that you could share to inspire other leaders who are in their companies trying to innovate, trying to be creative, trying to think of how to stay ahead in this, just constantly transforming climate? What are your thoughts on
Yeah.
that?
What you want to know about the latest shoe drop that's going to come out next quarter? I ain't telling you. I'm just not going to tell you. Honestly, and this is going to sound boring, but it's really not that, maverick or, it's the only thing that we want to do is stay close to and focused on the consumer. That's all we do. And that in itself drives innovation. It drives new thinking. It drives new solutions from a footwear or apparel perspective. But that's all we do. Now, in a lot of ways, that is quite challenging because the consumer is always changing. It also is challenging for our team because it inherently suggests that we don't know everything. Well, that's true. We don't know everything. And so, in order to be in the best position to innovate, to solve problems, and to deliver surprises to the consumer, we got to stay close to him or her. We got to understand, how they're wired, what they want, what they need, what their environment looks like, how their mind works. And then when we can speak in common language, we're in the best position to be successful. So kind of boring, but that's what we do.
No, boring, but again, so relevant and so again, it's simple but counterintuitive, believe it or not, in a number of cases. Because, like you said, sometimes success pulls us in to assume that we have it all figured out, and we lose touch with the very people who helped us grow in the first place, right? The consumer. And so, to
Very
your
true.
point, the discipline to stay in touch with the consumer and stay alongside them and continue to innovate versus thinking you know it all. That takes discipline. It's simple, but it's not easy to implement.
For sure.
My last question for you as we wrap up would be, man, many people would say you have the dream career / dream job, right? You're, president of Brand Jordan Worldwide. I think if I recall, you had the opportunity, your interview was, with Michael Jordan. Literally a part of the interview process was obviously with Michael Jordan. I mean, what a dream scenario. There are other leaders out there, Craig, who aspire to be where you are, who aspire to lead at your level. And you can't teach the character you've developed, the integrity and the things that I know about you offline, off camera, right? But outside of those things that are part of your DNA and the way God wired you and the giftedness that you exhibit, are there some practical things you can leave us with in just a couple minutes we have left where you can inspire leaders who say, man, I want to be the next Craig Williams. I want to lead at that level for an organization or a brand like Nike or Jordan, and I want to lead at that level. What would you tell them as we wrap up here today?
I have a really simple formula for this kind of stuff because I never really aspired to be the president of the Jordan brand. I just aspired to do a great job. And so my number one focus was to always be a good steward of what God has given me in the moment. And I felt like the best way to accrue future opportunities was to be a really, really good steward of the things that, he had already given me. I used to, when I got a new job, I used to wait at least 6 to 8 months before I ever changed my business card or in today's environment, go on LinkedIn, update, my title and all this other stuff. And it's because I wanted to hold myself accountable to earning the right to do that first. To wanting to satisfy the requirements for the role, to wanting to be a good teammate for the people that I was working next to earn the right to lead a team before I decided to blazingly go and just update my resume to assume that I was already there or I'd already arrived, and it just kept me humble and hungry. I mean, I literally, and I still make it a practice to this day. Usually when I introduce myself, I don't introduce myself as the president of Jordan Brand. I'm just a guy that works on Jordan because I got a job just like everybody else. My job is to make sure that the team is, truly empowered to take down giants, to slay dragons. And I want to give them every tool, in the arsenal to be able to do that. That's my job. it happens to come with a title that, sounds pretty interesting. But, I just took out the trash before I got on this call in my house, so it's like, at
Yeah.
the end of the day, we all have, different hats that we wear. And I'm very comfortable and very thankful for every hat that I get the opportunity to wear.
Hey, man, you have to go because you have another major meeting right after this. So thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you for investing your wisdom and knowledge with us. And I'll
Anytime.
definitely be in touch with you very soon, man. God bless, and I'll see you soon.
Anytime. Take care, buddy.
All right.